Melody said things should be addressed directly and without confusion. It set a tone that feels fitting for what happened next in Martell's life. Sometimes everything feels normal, and then in a single second, it all changes. That is what many believe happened to Martell Holt. For years, viewers watched him navigate heartbreak, public criticism, and personal struggles on Love and Marriage Huntsville, especially during and after his very public divorce from Melody Shari. His marriage, separation, and co-parenting journey were constantly discussed, judged, and replayed online. But this time, the situation was not about relationship drama or social media arguments. It was about survival. When news began circulating about a serious crash, many people were unsure what to believe. Some assumed it was exaggerated, while others dismissed it as rumor. However, when Martell finally spoke, his tone changed everything. He did not sound defensive or rehearsed. He sounded shaken. When he admitted, "I thought it was over," it felt real, not dramatic. It sounded like someone who truly believed he might not survive. According to what he shared, the day started like any other, with no warning signs. The crash happened suddenly, fast and terrifying, followed by a moment of silence that forced him to confront a frightening thought: his children. In that instant, he was not thinking about fame, headlines, or public opinion. He was thinking about being a father. Living in the spotlight has meant constant pressure for Martell. Every mistake has been analyzed, every decision debated. After his divorce, rebuilding his life was not only personal, but public. He often spoke about wanting peace more than attention. Yet, peace can be difficult when your life unfolds on television. Before the accident, some fans noticed he had grown quieter online, appearing more reflective and focused. No one expected that a crash would become the moment that forced him to face his own mortality. After the incident, he described feeling deeply grateful to be alive. He admitted that the fear lingered even after the physical danger passed. He replayed the moment in his mind, thinking about how easily the outcome could have been different. The experience made him ask himself difficult questions about presence, forgiveness, and time with loved ones. It also seemed to shift his tone in interviews. He appeared calmer, more thoughtful, less reactive. Rather than turning the situation into a spectacle, he focused on gratitude and reflection. Hearing his children's voices after the crash, he said, was one of the most emotional moments of his life. Public reaction eventually softened. What began as speculation turned into support as people recognized that a life-threatening experience is bigger than reality television. The crash became more than a headline. It became a turning point. Martell spoke about wanting to be remembered not just as a controversial figure, but as a father and a man who learned from his experiences. Surviving such a moment often rearranges priorities, and he admitted that small problems no longer felt as heavy as they once did. In the end, his words, "I thought it was over," were not about drama, but about awakening. The story is no longer just about what happened on that road. It is about what happens next and how someone chooses to live after being given a second chance. That second chance is what seems to be shaping this new chapter of Martell Holt's journey. Surviving a moment like that does something to a person. It forces you to slow down. It makes you realize how quickly everything can be taken away. He has shared that since the crash, he looks at time differently. Days feel more valuable. Conversations feel more important. Even silence feels meaningful. Instead of rushing to respond to criticism or jumping into public debates, he appears more intentional about what he says and how he moves. Those close to him have hinted that the experience pushed him to focus more on stability, especially when it comes to his children. Co-parenting has always been a public topic between him and Melody Shari, but moments like this tend to remind parents that personal differences should never outweigh peace for the kids. While the public may never know every private conversation, the tone surrounding him seems less reactive and more reflective. It is as if he understands now that protecting his peace is more important than protecting his image. Fans have also noticed that his energy feels different during appearances and interviews connected to Love and Marriage Huntsville. He seems more measured in his responses, less focused on defending the past and more focused on growth. That does not mean mistakes disappear or history is erased. It simply means perspective changes. When someone has faced the thought that life might end in an instant, arguments that once felt urgent start to lose their power. He has spoken about gratitude repeatedly, gratitude for being alive, for protection, for hearing his children's voices again. That sense of thankfulness often follows fear. When a person walks away from something that could have ended differently, it creates awareness. Awareness of how fragile life is. Awareness that tomorrow is never promised. Now, the real question is whether this shift will remain long-term. Life has a way of pulling people back into old habits once the shock fades. But moments like this leave a mark. They leave reminders. They leave quiet pauses before reacting. They leave deeper appreciation for ordinary days. If this truly becomes a turning point, it may redefine how Martell is seen, not just as a reality figure tied to controversy, but as someone who experienced a wake-up call and chose to reflect instead of deflect. Ultimately, the crash was not just about impact and survival, it was about clarity. Clarity about what matters most, clarity about legacy, clarity about love and time. When he said, "I thought it was over," he was describing a moment of fear, but he may have also been describing the end of an old mindset. Now the focus is not just on survival, but on intention. How he invests his time, how he nurtures his relationships, how he defines success. A second chance is meaningful only if it's used differently than the first. And as this next phase unfolds, the real story won't be written in headlines, but in choices. Sometimes life interrupts us to remind us what truly matters. For Martell, that interruption